we were very privileged to have three packages of solutions that were part of that hackathon: challenges on climate innovations on transformative innovation for climate. We also have resilience, and finally energy and transport. And we went through this process of collecting the submissions of the challenges. I remember that we have to screen several hundreds of applications, all of them very excited and very, very forward-looking. But I have the privilege to, when looking at these applications, to interact quite closely with the team, with the Clurb team, and they were one of the top ones. And after a round of interactions with a broad audience and the GIZ, they end up in the first place. So we are really privileged to have them here. This solution they are bringing today is very important. It really helps cities and subnational governments to identify the global challenges and to help them provide with solutions connected, of course, to the Paris Agreement and the implementation topics that are very relevant at COP27. So with this brief introduction, I would like to hand over to the moderator. It's a pleasure to have you here, and he will take us forward introducing the rest of the panelists. So Mariano, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlos, for the kind introduction. We are very happy to be here. My name is Mariano Rossi. I'm co-founder of Clurb. That is the company that we are going here to introduce ACCTION, disaster risk management software tool at the speed and scale that the climate crisis requires. I mean, it's a long name, we know it, but we are confident at the end of this presentation, you will see that it's extremely accurate as well. Okay, cities all around the world are facing disasters. Like, unfortunately, they don't have the means, the solutions, the concerning human resources, concerning finance. So, and the tools they have available, unfortunately, they are not made by them, or they are very generic solutions. For that reason, we are here today to introduce our software tool named ACCTION. ACCTION will help them to develop an assessment about the current situation regarding disaster risk management. They will be develop a public policy, and then as well systems of alert to them. Today, the structure of this presentation will be the following. My colleague Evandro, he will introduce and present more detail the solution, our software tool, and then Florencia Mitchell, she will, on behalf of the national government of Argentina and local governments, she will give the feedback about how she finds this kind of solution. But first, we want to get an introduction from Stella Deppe. She's part as well of BMZ digilab. She will be talking on this behalf. That thanks their support and the support of the Global Innovation Hub, it's that we are here. Hello, Stella, are you there?
I am with you. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Perfect.
Please go ahead. The floor is all yours.
Okay. Yeah, I try to keep it super short because I know this is actually your time and it's up to you now to present your tool. I just wanted to put it a little bit in context for the audience, as also our colleague Carlos from the UNFCCC Innovation Hub did. So I work for the BMZ digilab, which is an initiative where we are trying to look into how can we scale actually the impact in our programs with digital tools. And as said, we ran this innovation program. It's been a year now, I think. We started last November when we actually opened this call for solutions. And since then, many things have happened actually, not only in this program called Innovate 2030, but also in like other aspects where we are working here at BMZ digilab. But I think what was really important for me to observe is what we could do during this whole process is connecting people and also connecting the tools to programs. Because what I think is really tricky for us working in development cooperation is building the bridges between the innovators and the innovations as such as ACCTION, for example, and as Clurb is having innovations and building innovations to our development world. So what we're trying to do, and we are happy to see that actually some connection has been made, we're trying to build these bridges and make sure that we can intake the innovations into the programs where we need it, because the digilab has one big vision actually to scale the impact of our programs with digital tools. And this being said, I'm super happy to see that actually you can sit here today and building even more partnerships, hopefully at COP27, because we need some tools like ACCTION that are on the one hand can reduce CO2 emissions, on the other hand are a tool where you can actually increase citizens' engagement. And what we also need is find ways to insource all these innovations into our GAZ, BMZ, and all KfW, which is another partner of our BMZ Digilab, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is also one of our core partners, to make sure that they can actually throw back and fall back into our program and project logic. So I'm super happy to see that you can be here and you can speak and connect further with people, participants from all over the world at COP27. And I really hope if actually this is a success, that you can unfold your impact in more than just a couple of GIZ programs, but also within more people that are looking for a tool like yours. And one more important aspect I want to make before I leave the floor all to yours is that what Digilab does is we look into how can we actually accompany the scaling process in a user-centered way. So meaning if a tool has worked in one context or country, how can we make sure that the adjustment phase is being undertaken in a way that it's user-centered so that it really meets the needs of another context, another city in that case. So this is actually our core activities. And we also look into how can we strengthen interoperable tools, like tools that can really make sure that they work with other tools that are complementing a problem. And this leads us to the fact that we really want to strengthen and push forward digital public goods. So also really happy to, like in the next year, be working with ACCTION and the founders here in looking into how can we make sure that this is a tool really accessible for all. And yeah, I wish you all the very best for today for the showcasing of ACCTION, and I'm very happy to see this partnership is still flourishing. Back to you, Evandro, Mariano.
Thank you very much, Stella. Thank you very much. Now I will introduce the next speaker of the afternoon of the session. I will introduce my colleague Evandro Holz. He is co-founder and CEO of Clurb, and he will present us the software ACCTION. With a long experience, with a bachelor degree on engineer, a master degree on urban management, and many more accomplishments. But let's get to the text. Evandro, the floor is all yours, please.
Thank you very much, Mariano. Yes, can you hear me well? Yes. Yes, can I go on with the presentation, please? So, and you're probably gonna hear the word simple quite a few times because this is basically the core of our, of what we do. As Clurb, not only in the tool called ACCTION. So, ACCTION, as we already pointed out, is a tool that focuses on making disaster risk management as simple as possible. So, I guess especially here at COP, I don't need to on the fact that the number and the impact of disasters all over the planet is increasing as the day goes by, but what we see is that only as few as 4% of the cities around the planet actually have access to any kind of systems that can help them in terms of responding to these kind of events. No, it's an extremely low number based on the need that we actually have across the planet. So to understand why this is actually happens, we as cities themselves, because they know why they have this challenge in actually having access to this kind of system. So first of all, we try to understand more in details what are the different activities that they have to carry out when talking about disasters. So it's not only about responding to disaster, but also mapping different risk areas. Let me just move for a second so it's, you can see the presentation better. Calculate and monitor the risk level. So it starts much before the disaster actually happens. But when a disaster actually strikes, you have to, of course, send and receive alerts from citizens and provide the immediate response. And you can continue and go on with recovery and long-term reconstruction after the disaster actually strikes. So once again, by talking to cities, what we found out is that the great majority of them basically uses whatever instruments they have at hand. And that can mean from Microsoft Office to handwritten maps, to social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, or whatever is available. And only very few of them have the luxury to actually use tools such as ArcGIS or even hire consultancy firms. But this is a luxury that only few of them have access to because they're expensive and they're time consuming. So what we do with Action is that we simplify the technical complexity of these tools, and we borrow the usability and flexibility of option number 1. And we combine everything into a single tool that actually provides the possibility for even the cities and communities that don't have a lot of resources to take action, not only to respond, but also to recover and to prepare against disasters. In a collaborative way, always working with the communities, not to the communities only, but also with the communities in a rapid and efficient manner. So how this is done, basically, we have a web-based platform and a mobile app that can be used by municipality officials to manage operation, but also to the population and the different response teams, where we embedded a lot of features that actually make it very easy for this tool to be used, once again, by people that sometimes don't even have a lot of technical knowledge on disaster risk reduction. So our long-term approach is that we want to really move from business as usual, where you have very few cities responding to disaster with limited impact, to really virtually all of the cities providing response to their cities with high efficiency, by providing a tool that really allows a much larger scale of cities to respond to this kind of events. And of course, having always as the main objective the reduction of the loss of lives and properties, but also working towards a more active and ongoing citizen engagement, better allocation of resources, and faster and more accurate response. So as I've mentioned, we not only talk about alert and response, but we cover the whole cycle of disaster risk reduction. So not only really having a much more long-term perspective on disaster risk reduction. We already have worked with quite a few cities around the planet, such as in Brazil, in Teresina, where the tool was used to develop the first resilience profile for the city. In Cabo Verde was an experience that we're really proud of, because we didn't work with the city, but we've actually with a community association. So the community association themselves were the ones that actually led the implementation of the tool, along with the residents of the community of Safende. And finally, actually our first implementation was here in Honduras, where the tool helped them in a collaborative manner with different stakeholders to develop and implement their very first disaster risk management plan. So in terms of target and partners, we've worked not only with cities, but also with NGOs, regional level governments, and other institutions working with cities at the different perspectives. And once again, we have quite a broad experience, and some of the places that we've managed to apply the tool so far confirm and validate our assumption that actually the tool is simple enough and is really targeted at the cities that sometimes don't have a lot of resources. So the fact that we managed to implement the tools in this context actually validates that assumption. So that is not very surprising, because our team is actually composed by quite a few well-versed professionals that have worked with governments, within governments, and for governments, in more than 30 countries worldwide in disaster risk reduction and other topics. And of course, we have good support on UX, UI, and data science and other topics that are relevant for the initiative. We have won already several awards. One of them was mentioned here, which was the Innovate 2030, the reason that we're here today. But we also have participated in programs in Chile, in Brazil, in Germany, and other countries, also in Argentina. We already have our tool also mentioned in quite a few publications, and also made reference to the work that we've been doing in the different countries. But we're not there yet, of course. I mean, the next steps here is for us to continue advancing the tool, technologically speaking, always ensuring that that is something that happens in the background, and then simplicity and ease of use remains for the final user. But especially, we have a call for action. No? So whoever is interested in actually applying the tool or understanding a little bit better how this can support the work that you do in whatever context you work, we're happy to engage, we're happy to talk, because at least our experience has been that whoever has been interested in applying the tool, we have found a way to actually do it. So once again, thanks a lot for your time. Very happy to see you around here, and very happy to continue with the discussion. Over to you, Mariano. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Evandro, for the presentation. Now, before we are going to return to you for a few questions, of course, but then first, I want to introduce Florencia Mitchell. She's the National Director of Climate Change in Argentina. Thank you, Florencia, for being here. We know that you are very busy at the moment. And we invite her because we believe that our solution could fill a gap very important with what's going on at the national level and the local level. And she has many years of experience, not just working from the national level, as well with local governments, developing plans of climate change for adaptation, mitigation, and so on. So please, Florencia, in just 5 minutes, remember the time. The floor is all yours. Thank you.
It's not working. Okay, here, yeah, this is working. Yes, well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here sharing with you at least some key points on what are the opportunities we see from the national government in such tools, digital tools that would help us deploy our policies in the actual territory and give specific tools to communities to actually address climate impacts. That it's what we are discussing here in this COP. Of course, unluckily, the agendas of climate change are every time more related to the risk management agenda. They started as different agendas, but we were trying from the climate change perspective not to need so much risk management, but unluckily we haven't made it so far. So we are here sitting, trying to put together all the different tools and all the different concepts we deal with. But as Mariano said, I worked with local governments for many years before becoming National Director of Climate Change, and something we need from the local government, something that they actually need, it's simple tools. They need to move fast. They do not have their own capabilities, so they will need help from outside from these tools, but they need them to be simple. They need to engage people, they need to engage their communities, and the only way to do it is with simple tools that give them concrete answers to their actual problems. And that's not something we see very often, and I think this kind of tools, these digital tools, can make a difference on that regard. And from the national perspective, one of the main challenges we have from national governments when we have to address specifically extreme events, extreme events related to climate, one of the main challenges, as I said, it's how we can give solutions that are fit to purpose, of course, as it has been said before, but also fit to local circumstances. Argentina, I will speak only from Argentinian side. It's a huge country with many differences, where the risk management has very different approaches, because the risks they are facing are very different. So we have to give them tools that fit to those local circumstances. And being so different, flexibility, another point of these tools that we can build up together. It's in a collective way. It's also a plus. It's a very big improvement on how we approach the risk management. And the other thing is that if we build it collectively, actually what we are doing, it's empowering people to solve their own problems. And that's what we actually should be trying to do all the time, not to have to be everywhere all the time, but to give the people tools to solve their own the problems they are having and they will have. And one other key point I want to point out, it's how these tools can help us learn out of the processes, we will face different extreme events. Unluckily, we will not be able to avoid them, but if we're going to have them, at least let's learn something about them, on how can we evolve in our communities, how can we build up resilience, and all these kind of tools that somehow documents the processes, give us more tools for us decision makers to make better policy and to address not only the events themselves, but address how we enhance adaptation capacities from every community and every person individually. So I think that's probably the three main opportunities we see: simplicity, adapt to local circumstances, and the learning process we can have behind these tools. What I wanted to point out of these tools.
Thank you, Florencia, very much for your insights. We are exactly on schedule, so we have 5 minutes for questions from our audience. So if there is any question, yes, 1 minute.
That's a button? Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's very inspiring. I'm from C40 cities. We work with cities with climate change. Super interesting to see what you have done. Actually, I got a question. It's from my working experience with cities, that many of the cities, they don't have data. You have the tool, but you probably need something input into the tool to generate the analysis assessment. So for the very low capacity cities in many of the developing countries, so do you have any suggestion like how to tackle the data accessibility, availability issue on that? Another thing I wanted to maybe more got from Argentina experience was we work with cities, but cities actually, we talk about risk assessment and mapping and things, but their question directly is what kind of policies we can take to prevent the hazards, or if there is anything, what they can do to support the citizens. For example, there's flooding or urban heating, these kind of things. Which type of policy they can take, or kind of how to get support from the national government, because there is always this vertical integration, different level of governments, communication thing, how to coordinate among cities under the municipal government. Yeah, that's really would help me for my daily work. So I'm looking forward to your remarks on that. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Of course, very interesting and challenging questions. What we found out, at least based on our experience, is that yes, there is lack of data a lot of times, but more often than not, there is a lot of data around. It's just that it's in people's heads, or in a PowerPoint somewhere, or in a PDF, or written, in a different notebook that is lost. So I like to say that I try to test every new functionality of the tool with my mom or with my parents, because they know in my hometown back in Brazil, in countryside Brazil, where generally speaking there is flooding every year. Where's the next emergency shelter, or what are the kind of facilities that they can use on that regard. So I would say that our experience has been that there is a lot of data, it's just that we don't have the tools and instruments to consolidate the data that comes from these various different sources. And once again, our experience has been that with the utilization of action, at least this has been possible to a very good extent. And actually, this is, generally speaking, the very first step of the implementation of the tool. Gathering out of this data, official, unofficial, informal, and informal, and having a very robust starting point to actually derive the adaptation solution. So this is more or less what I would suggest in terms of the implementation of the tool regarding data.
Yes, maybe just a very quick response to what you were saying. I think that the main policy we can have from the national government when it comes to risk management is how it's a strong policy on building capacities in the cities, and how we can help from the national government to build the capacities in the territory itself with more and better data, of course, with better infrastructure, but also with a very clear governance on who does what and when.
Thank you, Florencia and Evandro. And Carlos, if there's a question, final remarks.
Thank you, Mariano. And so during this journey since COP26 and moving forward with the implementation of the Innovate 2030 Challenge, we were part of the boot camps that work with entrepreneurs, including your organization, that help the entrepreneurs that were in the list to move their initiative forward. How this feedback and this exchange with the Global Innovation Hub was useful or was taken into account to get to this point? And my second question is, where do you see your initiative moving forward, for example, to COP28?
Okay, very challenging questions, of course. Mariano, feel free to respond as well. So for us, and sometimes people ask, if it gets boring to make the same presentation all over again for 100 or 100 times. And the answer, it might be a little bit romantic answer, but this is the reality, is that every time we present it, we get a different feedback. You know, if we present it to a local government, they're going to say we can use the tool for that and that and that reason. If we present it to the national government, they're going to say no, we can actually gather data from the local level to help us with policy development at the national level. No? So once again, all of these kind of opportunities, as Carlos was saying, in terms of the boot camps, they provide a lot of perspectives, the different perspectives that actually allows us to build a tool. And at the end of the day, we call ourselves sort of an aggregators of this knowledge and that experience. Now, of course, we have our own experience, but at the end of the day, what we try to do is to really incorporate these different perspectives. Of course, there's only so much we can do within a tool such as this one, but the boot camps and all of these opportunities are quite important on that regard. And where do we want to get until next year? Please, Mariano.
Well, we want to, all cities of the world could use our software tool. That's what we want to achieve, because besides being an entrepreneur, I mean, most of the entrepreneurs, they just want to be unicorns, have a lot of money, and we are not. We don't care about that. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this. So we believe in this software. We believe in what are we doing, and thanks to the feedback and the support of different institutions with the Challenge Innovation 2030. I mean, places like this, they were very generous with us. I think definitely we are a little bit closer day by day. So that's where we want to be. Hopefully next year, maybe too, but we're going to be there. So, well, I think we are reaching the end of the event, and we are so sorry. This is just 30 hours, 30-minute sessions. Hopefully, 30 hours is more or less all the COP. So, but we are willing to not work a little bit after the meeting, and well, let's chat a little bit about how we could work together. So this is what all about. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you.